product the minute they had money to buy.
Let me give you an example. A long time ago in the early 1970s, we were working on how to display text, how to display high-quality text on a computer. Over the course of the years, that changed from personal computing, and it grew into the technologies of pictures and music and sounds and movies, and then it grew beyond that into the technologies of building communication systems and environments and sensing.
But we're going to reach the end of demand at some point.
Many of the forces that are determining the new culture fall outside of the definition of traditional economics.
From the start, the paramount importance of consumption had been fundamental. And from the ribs of the small neighboring village, customers were created, and needs were taken beyond daily provisions. Then someone said, "Let us make them in our image, after our likeness, and a new attitude will revolutionize economy." And that revolutionary element will be called marketing.
Well, I think it's partly history. Usually, sales comes first. A small company, as it grows, has some salespeople, and one day somebody says, "We need a brochure. We need to do some advertising." And marketing starts as a sales support function.
Because marketing definitely meant sales when it was first used. And then it started to mean more than promoting an existing product, it meant 4 Ps.
And that is, if you will, a model of marketing that is very much from the supply side or the company side out toward the customer. We define what we're going to sell, we figure out how we're going to price it, we determine the promotional plan, and then we push it into marketing channels.
But very soon, marketing becomes interested in big things, segmentation. It becomes interested in branding. And these things are not very measurable, but very strategic.
And we look at that as marketing 1.0 because it's really about a distribution platform. It's a model that says that we at corporate headquarters who control the supply need to make the product available in ways that are accessible to consumers in all the places they want us to be.
In the Ford economy, the whole drive towards manufacturing was standardization. You could have any color Model T you wanted as long as it was black. Revolutionizing consumers' ability to get products by standardizing them into a single product.
But it's basically a model that's defined by corporate power and the lack of any kind of power or clout on the part of consumers or retailers.
In those earlier times, when the marketing ecosystem was void and formless, a miscellany of unclassified subjects eagerly crept up onto the driving categories of this new force. And advertising, salesmanship, market research, sales management, branding started to make the world go round. By then, Philip Kotler, one of the founding fathers and author of the best pages in the marketing Bible, made a division in the history of the discipline, and starting with fundamentals such as the 4 Ps, every sort of thing in and around market and customers was given a name.
Many of us have taught in business schools, what's taught in MBA curricula to this day, is really designed around that model, the famous model of the 4 Ps. The essence of marketing is putting together a marketing mix that is defined by product, promotion, price, and of course distribution or place.
So that was the second stage. The third stage was segmentation, targeting, and positioning. You're not dealing with a mass market anymore. It has pieces to it and segments, so you want to go after the right ones.
I always think you're looking at the overall trends. You know, how are ages changing? How are tastes changing? Is there a big move to the environment? Something like that.
Because up to now we were only thinking of a transaction. But now we're in the relationship stage, which is to build not only good, loyal customers, but loyal partners.
First of all, you start with trust, you start with quality, you start with all the normal stuff you get taught at MBA school or Marketing 101 from Mr. Kotler, and then you infuse mystery, sensuality, and intimacy, and then you watch it become a love mark.
And the fifth stage is brand new, and that is companies are thinking about co-marketing with their customers. That is, not just making something and seeing if they're interested, but having them help us make what they would be interested in.
And after product, place, price, and promotion were kind of dismissed as being old-fashioned, the P's became C's, and convenience, cost to the user, communication, customer needs and wants ruled over the earth.
And this idea of, moving from sort of a bullhorn where you're shouting out messages to ones where you're trying to stimulate, an organic conversation amongst consumers is very tricky, because if it looks like you're pulling the strings, it won't be authentic. This quest for authenticity.
I think that you're seeing products really now being marketed in ways that they have to touch all of the different communities to be truly successful, and I think that's what successful marketers are doing.
Today, selling is much more about strategy, about planning, about understanding customers, and about being creative.
Understanding the customer well enough to know how the customer sees value.
You just can't go by your gut, you just can't go by the numbers either. You have to have a good theory, and the numbers have to really back it up. So I really kind of try to look at the numbers, I try to look at the developments, I try to get out the magnifying glass, and I try to come up with a lot of theories about how people are acting and what's new.
Which means that salespeople today have to understand not just the products, they have to understand customers, the customer's business, the customer's finances.
If you really buy the argument that consumers have the power, then it's not return on product, it's not return on ad budget, it's not return on technology. It's how do you give the customer a better return on herself by dint of the fact that she gave you her business and not your competitor.
I was satisfied with an expression to remind people what it really is, and I call it CCDVTP. So what is marketing? It is creating, communicating, and delivering value to a target market at a profit.
There isn't a new idea there. There's just all existing ideas that are finally being executed well, so that they have the impact that we thought they would have all along.
But while historical accounts may lead us to conclude that marketing has always existed, I wonder if it is true that it is the mere application of new names to old practices. Why is it that marketing, its theories and its advocates, seem to be always under scrutiny and, at the same time, blindly worshipped as holy scriptures? Rising from factual and conceptual bases to higher levels of generalization and integration, the character of marketing thought has been determined not only by hard data from reality, but by the subjective elements that, from time immemorial, far beyond memory, record, or tradition, have influenced the viewpoints of man.
I think marketing is being replaced by connectors. It was Steve Jobs at Apple that said creativity is just connecting stuff.
There are brands that are loved by people, and if that love affair is continued through various activities, events, and communications, and not through advertising and so on, then the brand strength can be preserved without the old mass advertising approach.
The fact is that when we think holistically or systemically about what controls a market's perception of a brand, which ultimately is about attitudes, how do we feel about a brand, behaviors, how much do we buy from a brand.
Think about MP3 players, okay? I mean, you can buy a Zune, a Samsung, a Philips, or an iPod, okay? Now, maybe the Zune's cheaper, maybe it's better value, maybe it lasts longer, but the iPod's irresistible. The iPod's dripping with mystery, sensuality, intimacy.
This ability to be able to associate a product with its consumers, to be able to say, I like this consumer and this consumer likes this product, therefore I might like that product. If you make it explicit, of course it won't work. But if you build social factors, social media, if you will, into everything you do, is much greater.
And as you and I both know, I mean, the enlightened organizations of the world essentially reverse engineer their operations by defining the types of customer experiences they want to deliver in the market for the customers or segments of customers they care about.
We have basically infinite data about behavior. And the problem was that there weren't enough people looking at the data, analyzing it, thinking about it from an economics perspective.
Most marketing people spend most of their time in the business of doing business, or in false situations like focus groups and so on. They don't spend enough time observing, living with consumers.
Societies are too big for you to operate just on the basis of observation. You've got to really go out and draw the statistics. You know, if you live in the big cities, you're just not going to understand how people are living out in the more rural areas anymore and how they want to change unless you're really following the numbers and the thoughts and the feelings.
You know, if you want to learn about how a lion hunts, you've got to go to the jungle, not to the zoo. If you want to learn about consumers, you've got to live with them, not put them in focus groups, and not spend time in internal meetings.
Consciously or not, we built upon the foundation of marketing, a multidimensional superstructure with the temporal, cultural, personal flair of each moment of time. Moreover, throughout modern history, marketing has increasingly become an integral part of every human exchange of goods and services, until we finally had to admit it was a process, a value-creating chain. And now, even if we don't manufacture widgets, or we aren't pushing our wares to make a profit, we are engaged in marketing activities all the time.
Some people do stupid things with them, some people do amazing things with them. Sometimes we benefit from the results, sometimes we don't benefit.
I would say that they should have a love of the battle place where decisions are made and products are competing. You got to ask if you really enjoy the battle, if you want to be out there in marketing or in sales.
I think the most important change in marketing is the shift from push marketing, the lecture approach, to one where you're just stimulating word of mouth.
Why do I need to have a talking brochure sit across the table to tell me about products when I could use technology of the internet to find out all I know much more easily?
So society changes and adopts things faster, and we have the ability to make technologies real much, much faster. And that's very significant in the way we live.
We've basically had a century of projecting out marketing messages, and now there's more and more messages, which means the individual messages have less and less impact, and all you can really do is catalyze bottoms-up, grassroots conversations.
That is a symptom of the fact that the person who seems to be the logical owner of the customer experience is usually the chief marketing officer.